This is McCook's Mr. Bill. It is an honor to have you here. I knew Jeff for 12 years. He rented my basement house from me, and he was quite a guy. Never knew him to lie. And he came from Montana up that direction. He was a big game guide during the winter. In the summertime, he worked at logging camp. And so he had a wide variety of stories that he would tell. He came down here to get away from some of the bad weather, and his health was failing to a degree. And he started driving a float machine. It's a fertilizer for farms, great big tired float machine, and with sprayer. And with that, he did that for another 10 years here before his health failed enough that he had to just simply quit working. With that though, I'll tell you two of the stories from being a float operator that he was. He told that he was heading north out of McCook on the dirt road, county road. Got about 3 to 5 miles out, and there was a canyon, dip down canyon. Not a deep one, but a good canyon, needless to say. And as he came over the ridge to go down into it, he saw a pickup on the other side, on the top of the other side of the canyon, driving off at a pretty good clip and kicking up dust. Okay. And there's no other roads coming in or out of that immediate canyon. So he had to have driven through the canyon. My friend, old Jeff, he said he started down the canyon, he got to the bottom of the canyon, he slammed on the brakes of that big float machine, and he couldn't figure out what the devil he was seeing. He said the ground was moving. The road was moving. And he said he would estimate that there was 100 snakes, maybe more, of all kinds, all sizes of snakes. He said there were rattlers, but there were also some bull snakes. And he had been around snakes out in the country and around his hunting and everything through the different things and logging. He had seen about every kind of snake you could think of. And he said there were snakes there that he had never seen. And he said some set up and looked like a cobra. And I'm not talking about the hog-nosed snake that can flare out and a few others. He said this was a cobra is what I saw. And a number of them in that batch, all different kinds of snakes. And they were crawling over each other like they had just been dumped right there. Well, that pickup had just left. And it did have, it looked like some kind of box on the back of it, but he couldn't tell. A green pickup, which the state of Nebraska runs green pickups in their state line quite often. And he wondered to himself, why would the state of Nebraska dump a whole bunch of snakes, including deadly poisonous ones, within 5 miles at the most of the city of McCook? Why would they possibly do that? And he said he swore to God he saw it. And he said there were no dead snakes that had been run over by that other truck. No snakes that looked like they'd been injured. Like the truck had stopped ahead of him and opened up the deal and dumped the snakes, however it did it, onto the road. And some of them were starting to crawl away and crawl into the ditches and things like that. But he said, I've never figured out what I saw. He said, I had no gun with me or I'd have started shooting. But he said, I ran over them when I went over with my float machine. But he said there wasn't a thing I could do about it other than to just let them go. But he said, God knows why and what in the reason would be for the state or any, government entity to do something like that. That was one of his stories. Another story that he told, he said that he was driving in a field, and they have GPS on his machine. So if he stops a truck for over 15 seconds, it alerts them down at his station where he is out of. And they immediately call him and say, why have you stopped? because they want that machine running 24/7 as far as that goes when it's working. And the only thing that stops them is either rain and or high wind. And so he said he was driving along on a field that was told that there was no problems with that field. And he said all of a sudden, he said his front tire hit and dropped into a hole. Threw him against the windshield and the steering wheel. And no, he didn't have his seatbelt on. And because he gets up and turns around continually watching, making sure everything's working properly and the spray is working. Threw him against that. He busted some ribs and banged himself up awful good, and of course the machine was stuck. So he called for help and they came, got him out of there and everything like that. But even in a field that you look like it's just all smooth, it doesn't mean there isn't a hole, or that one doesn't develop for whatever given reason out in the middle of it. And nobody seemed to know about it, including the farmer said it wasn't there when he was planting. But be that as it may, that's two of the stories from Jeff, a man I called my friend. You have a good day.